For as long as humans have been around, we've looked up at the moon. It's a constant in our sky, a familiar friend. But what if it's something else? What if everything we assume about it is completely backward? What if that big, beautiful rock in the sky, the thing that governs our tides and lights up our nights, isn't natural at all?
Well, according to the source material we're diving into today, the answer is pretty simple and absolutely mind-blowing. They say it's a ship. And believe me, that's just the tip of the iceberg for one of the wildest theories about our place in the cosmos.
Okay, a ship? In the sky? I know, it sounds pretty out there. So where on earth does a claim like that even come from? How could anyone possibly argue that the moon is an artificial object? Let's unpack it. Right. So this idea doesn't come from your typical astronomers or geologists. The source claims this information was given to them by two very distinct, alleged non-terrestrial intelligences, and each one has a totally unique way of looking at the universe. And to really get a grip on this theory, you have to understand these two perspectives, because they're not just a little different, they're operating on completely different planes of reality. One is physical, and the other is, well, something else entirely. So, on one hand, you've got a group referred to as the Greys. They're supposedly all about the practical stuff, the nuts and bolts. They see the moon as a tool, a piece of technology, a base. Then, on the other hand, you have an entity called Being Six, which sees the moon through a totally metaphysical lens, as this grand cosmic force. All right, let's start with the Gray's perspective. This is the more, boots on the ground, concrete view of the moon as a piece of hardware with a very specific job. According to them, the moon's arrival was no accident. It was deliberately brought here to do a few things. It acts as a kind of neutral territory, a base of operations for different species. And historically, it was used as the initial point of contact with us, with humanity. And the so-called proof they point to is, well, it's pretty compelling stuff. Think about it. Most moons out there are these lumpy, potato-shaped rocks. Ours? It's almost a perfect sphere. And then there's that incredible cosmic coincidence where it appears exactly the same size as the sun, giving us perfect eclipses. This theory says, nope, those aren't coincidences. Those are design features. But it's not just a base of operations. The Greys apparently claim the moon's real job is much, much bigger. They say it is the key to the ascension of Earth. Yeah, pretty big deal for a piece of celestial hardware, right? Okay, so that's the hardware perspective. Now let's completely switch gears and get into the much more abstract, metaphysical side of things. This is the view from Being Six. So who or what is Being Six? Well, the source describes it as a form of consciousness that exists completely outside our reality, outside of linear time, outside of physical dimensions. So, as you can imagine, its take on all this isn't about technology. It's about the fundamental energies that shape reality itself. Being Six apparently sees our little corner of the cosmos as this big, energetic dynamic. You've got the sun, that's the original, natural, male energy source. Then you have the moon, that's the unnatural, internal, female energy. And what's right in the middle, created by this constant push and pull? That's Earth. And just to be super clear, when they say child, they are not talking about us humans. They're talking about the planet itself. The living consciousness of Earth is the child, born from this cosmic tug of war between the sun's natural energy and the moon's artificial influence. So we have two totally different stories here, right? One says the moon is a physical base, the other says it's a metaphysical force. But this is where it gets really interesting, because they both lead to the same mind-bending conclusion about the moon's ultimate purpose. The whole theory really hinges on this one idea from Being Six, that the moon is an unnatural force that's messing with Earth's natural evolution. Now that sounds bad, but stick with me, because the theory argues unnatural doesn't necessarily mean wrong. So the idea is that Earth was on this predetermined natural path, and then the moon shows up and just knocks it completely off course. It introduces a totally new, disruptive element into the whole system. And this is the huge twist. That very disruption, that chaos, is what actually sparks creation. It's the friction that creates new experiences, new patterns, and allows life as we know it to grow and evolve in ways it never could have otherwise. Think about it like this. The natural state, without the moon,
might be perfectly balanced, but it's also kind of boring. It's static. Nothing ever changes because all the problems are already solved. But when you add the moon's influence, you get chaos and imbalance. And that's what gives life a reason to do something, to grow, to create new patterns.
The source material actually makes a fascinating comparison to the Hindu deity Brahma. Brahma is the creator, but he creates by introducing chaos and struggle into the universe. Without that, there would be nothing to build, nothing to learn from. The moon in this story is basically playing the role of Brahma for planet Earth.
So when you put it all together, the big takeaway is staggering. This theory suggests that this artificial ship, this unnatural object parked in our sky, is the very reason for our existence. It's the ultimate paradox. The thing that disrupted the natural order is what allowed nature to flourish in this unbelievably complex and dynamic way.
And that really leaves us with a huge philosophical question to chew on, doesn't it? Whether you see this as fascinating sci-fi or something more, this theory forces us to ask, is a state of perfect balance actually lifeless? And is some element of chaos, of imbalance, the secret ingredient required for anything new to ever be created at all?